In my years of walking this earth, observing people and their ways, I've come to realize something profound. Intelligence isn't just about how much you know. It's about how you live, how you treat others, and how well you learn from your mistakes. But here's the twist. There are certain unmistakable signs, 6 to be exact, that reveal when someone is, well, let's just say, lacking in wisdom. Now, before you roll your eyes or chuckle at the thought of this list, let me tell you why it matters. Spotting these signs isn't about judging others. It's about reflection, growth, and yes, avoiding these pitfalls in our own lives. It's also about helping those who might not even realize they're stuck in their own cycle of foolishness. So, join me on this journey of discovery. Together, we'll uncover the 6 undeniable signs of a foolish person, each carrying a lesson, a story, and a mirror for us to reflect upon. Because the path to wisdom always begins with awareness. Ready to walk this road with me? Let's begin. Sign number 1. A closed mind. A closed mind is the fortress of ignorance, built brick by brick with fear, pride, and stubbornness. People like this not only reject new ideas, but also block their own paths to growth. They live in a rigid box where everything must operate according to their familiar rules, and anything different is perceived as a threat. Their confidence often serves as a facade, because true confidence comes from understanding that you can't know everything. Take Mark, for example, a department manager at a company I once worked for. Mark was convinced that the old ways of working were best, despite clear signs that his team was falling behind competitors. When a younger employee suggested implementing modern project management software to improve efficiency, Mark dismissed the idea outright, saying, "We've done it this way for 10 years and it's worked fine." As a result, while other teams in the company made significant strides, Mark's team struggled. Without updated processes, their performance declined. Instead of acknowledging the problem, Mark blamed his staff, the market, and even luck, but never questioned his own entrenched mindset. A closed mind doesn't just block new knowledge, it stifles growth for everyone around it. Wise people, on the other hand, aren't afraid to admit they don't know everything and are always willing to learn. Stoic philosophy reminds us that wisdom isn't about always being right. It's about the ability to adapt and improve. If you notice this tendency in yourself or someone at work, remember, embracing innovation fosters both personal growth and a more productive work environment. Be brave enough to say, "I was wrong and I want to learn." Only when the walls of stubbornness crumble can true wisdom take root. Sign number 2. Constant blaming. Foolish people are masters of excuses. For them, nothing is ever their fault. A failed project? The market was too tough. A missed promotion? The boss was biased. But deep down, we all know that blaming is a shield, a way to avoid confronting the truth. However, that same shield becomes a prison, holding them back from any real growth. Take Lisa, for example, an event organizer I once worked with. She was in charge of planning a major conference. When the event flopped due to poor attendance, Lisa immediately blamed the marketing team for not promoting it well enough. But upon investigation, it turned out that Lisa had failed to send the event details on time, delaying the entire marketing campaign. Even then, she continued pointing fingers, refusing to accept her own role in the failure. The result? Her colleagues lost trust in her, and eventually Lisa stepped down from her position. Responsibility, though often heavy, is the gateway to growth. Wise people admit their mistakes, not because they enjoy criticism, but because they understand that truth brings opportunities to improve. Stoic philosophy reminds us that mastering life starts with mastering responsibility. If you notice yourself falling into a pattern of blaming others, pause and ask yourself, have I done everything I could? Is there something I could have done differently? Blaming won't change the outcome, but taking responsibility will change you. Wise individuals don't shy away from their mistakes. They learn, grow, and move forward. And you can too. Choose the path of truth, improvement, and greatness. Sign number 3, arrogance over humility. Have you ever encountered someone who constantly tries to prove they're the smartest person in the room? That's the third sign of a foolish person: arrogance. Arrogance isn't just a mask for insecurity, it's the biggest barrier to growth and wisdom. Truly intelligent people listen more than they speak because they understand that learning is a lifelong process. Take Michael, a manager at a large corporation. In every meeting, he would dominate conversations, interrupt colleagues, and even mock their ideas. Once, when the company faced a failed project, Michael blamed his team for not understanding his brilliant ideas. But in reality, it was his arrogance and refusal to listen that derailed the entire project. When his boss asked him to reflect, Michael couldn't come up with a single valid reason for the failure. His arrogance had blinded him to any opportunity for improvement. Humility, on the other hand, isn't about thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking of yourself less. It prioritizes learning and collaboration over proving you're right. Stoic philosophy reminds us that wisdom comes only when we open ourselves to new perspectives, when we're brave enough to say, "I was wrong," and ready to learn from our mistakes. If you ever find yourself caught in the trap of arrogance, pause and ask, am I seeking recognition, or do I genuinely want to grow? Wisdom doesn't lie in making others feel small, but in helping them feel empowered. The truly wise allow humility to guide them because they know that real intelligence emerges when the noise of arrogance quiets down. And you can choose to be that wise person. Sign number 4, lack of empathy. A lack of empathy is one of the clearest indicators of ignorance. It reflects an inability to step into someone else's shoes, understand their feelings, or grasp what they're going through. Without empathy, people live in isolation, disconnected from meaningful relationships, and often hurt others without even realizing it. This absence doesn't just damage relationships, it diminishes the depth of one's character. Let me tell you about a colleague named Paul. He had a habit of complaining about project delays without ever trying to understand the reasons behind them. Once, when a co-worker named Susan missed a deadline because her son was seriously ill, Paul publicly criticized her in front of the team. He didn't care about Susan's circumstances, only about the results he expected. A year later, when Paul found himself in a similar situation, caring for his ailing mother, he finally realized how his thoughtless criticisms had hurt others. A lack of empathy doesn't just make someone appear cold. It blinds them to opportunities for learning and growth through relationships. Stoic philosophy teaches us that true wisdom doesn't come from knowing everything, but from connecting with others on a deep, meaningful level. Those who lack empathy not only fail to enrich their lives, but also isolate themselves, leaving a lasting impression of insensitivity. Remember, empathy is not a weakness. It is the bridge to wisdom and humanity. When you pause to truly listen to someone else, you not only help them, but also gain invaluable lessons for yourself. An empathetic heart enriches your world and enables you to navigate life's complexities with grace and understanding. If you ever find yourself lacking empathy, start by listening without judgment. It's the first step toward opening your heart and mind, guiding you closer to genuine wisdom. Sign number 5, the fear of change. The comfort zone feels cozy, but it's also a prison. Those who fear change cling to old habits, even when they've outlived their usefulness. They're like children afraid of the dark, hesitant to step outside the familiar. But my friends, Life is a river. It flows, bends, and constantly transforms. The wise learn to adapt and tread with the current, while the foolish try to hold water in their hands, only to watch it slip through their fingers. Take Michael, for instance, a man who spent his entire life in a small neighborhood. He knew every corner, every face in the community. When his grown children encouraged him to move to a new area for better opportunities, Michael refused. "I know everyone here. Why should I go somewhere else?" he said. But then the neighborhood started changing. Old friends moved away, familiar shops closed down, and Michael realized that even though he resisted change, the world around him was still moving forward. Eventually, he decided to move closer to his children. Only then did he discover that his new environment not only brought comfort, but also opened up opportunities he had never imagined. The fear of change doesn't just keep us in the safe zone, it prevents us from exploring greater possibilities. Stoic philosophy teaches us that change is inevitable, and only by embracing it with an open heart can we truly live a full life. If you find yourself avoiding change, ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen, and what's the best that could happen? Life doesn't stand still. If you don't learn to go with the flow, you'll be left behind. Remember, change is a step toward growth, while resisting it only keeps you stagnant in fear. Sixth sign, talking more than listening. Have you ever noticed a family member who insists they know everything? They dominate every conversation, interrupt constantly, and rarely take the time to listen to others. This is a clear sign of someone who talks more than they listen, a hallmark of foolishness. They love the sound of their own voice, often disregarding others' perspectives, which not only creates tension, but also damages family relationships. Let me share a story about John, a father I once knew. Every evening at dinner, John would monopolize the conversation. His kids tried to share their experiences from school, but John frequently interrupted to recount his own stories. When his wife suggested changes to improve the family's financial situation, he dismissed her ideas outright, insisting that his way was the only way. The tragic part was that John didn't realize how much his behavior made his family feel unheard and unvalued. His lack of listening created a rift, leaving everyone feeling overlooked and disrespected. Listening isn't passive, it's an active skill that requires genuine attention and respect for others. Stoic philosophy reminds us that listening is the pathway to learning and growth. In silence, we find deep understanding and wisdom. Conversely, talking without listening is like sowing seeds in barren soil. Nothing will ever grow. If you see yourself in John's story, now is the time to change. The next time your child shares their day or your spouse offers their thoughts, pause and truly listen. Don't just wait for your turn to talk, try to understand. By doing so, you'll not only improve family relationships, but also create an environment of love and mutual respect. Remember, a wise person listens, while a foolish one only talks. A final thought. We've walked through the 6 signs of a foolish person. But before you click away wondering, am I stupid? Hold on for a second. The truth is, all of us have exhibited one or more of these signs at some point in life. Maybe we've been arrogant, clung too tightly to our comfort zones, or, let's be real, talked too much without really listening. Here's the key takeaway. Recognizing these signs isn't about criticism, it's about improvement. Stoic philosophy teaches us that wisdom doesn't come from always being right, but from continually learning, admitting our mistakes, and being willing to grow. Each foolish trait is actually a golden opportunity to become wiser. If you resonate with one or more of these traits, take it as an invitation to evolve. Step out of your comfort zone, listen more, blame less, and embrace change. This journey isn't for the perfect, it's for the brave. those who can look at themselves and say, "I can do better." Remember, stupidity is temporary, but wisdom is a journey, and on that journey, you're not alone. Keep growing, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can continue exploring meaningful lessons together. Thank you for watching.